Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and if you're like me and you are tired of talking about Brandon Aiyuk, you have come to the right place because we are going to talk about being tired of talking about Brandon Aiyuk by talking about Brandon Aiyuk. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. We are 2 days away from the preseason finale between the Las Vegas Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers. Roster cut-down day, I think, is in 16 days, so things are going to start happening fast, and decisions regarding Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams need to happen immediately. Need to happen as soon as they possibly can. And we actually have a little bit of news, a little bit of information coming out about those two contracts that San Francisco is aggressively trying to work out in hopes by week one they have Aiyuk and Trent Williams on the field against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. Want to kindly ask you to like, share, and subscribe, and let's dive into the latest news regarding Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk's contract negotiations with the San Francisco 49ers. Want to say what's up to Rob Smith in the comments. What's going on, Rob? Hope you're having a wonderful evening. But let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk. A lot of different reports kind of all saying the same thing. I think there is optimism to believe that whether it's this week or early next week, there is going to be some sort of movement, whether it is a re-signing or a trade. This thing cannot last forever. Again, we are 16 days away from roster cutdown day. San Francisco wants to have a decision made on either Aiyuk and Trent before that. So 16 days, these negotiations have to be done with, or at least you hope so, right? But according to ESPN Adam Schefter, he said he expects movement in the receiver market soon, and it's more likely than ever Aiyuk ends up back with the 49ers. Now, I am someone that has said every day that goes on, every day that we put our heads down to sleep and wake up the next day, it is more likely Aiyuk comes back to San Francisco. According to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, as of maybe an hour ago, he said that both parties are kind of deadlocked. They haven't really put a new offer on the table in the last few days, maybe a week or so. But according to Jordan Schultz of The Score, also on Fox Sports 1 with Colin Cowherd, he stated this: the Niners and wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk had another meeting yesterday, now it's 2 days ago, and talks continue to progress towards a long-term contract extension. There's been some movement on a deal, but there are some minor details that still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. I want you to listen to that last sentence, with ownership approval. It's been long rumored and speculated that the issue holding this extension back, yes, it's money, of course it is. Yes, it's years and annual value. But why does ownership has to approve the minor details? Because it has everything to do with the guarantees. Every NFL player has shifted their focus from annual salary, which they still want that, but it's not the primary focus. Now it's, how can I guarantee myself the most money? How can I guarantee myself either an entire contract? Unfortunately, you can thank players like DeSean Jackson for that, who has the completely, fully guaranteed contract with the Cleveland Browns, which just dumb on their end. But now NFL players don't just want the annual salary. They want guaranteed contracts, guaranteed money all the way throughout. In San Francisco, the way they do their contracts, they don't usually like to guarantee money every year of the contract or a large sum each year. It's a reason why they can get out of Deebo Samuel's contract and Fred Warner's contract and George Kittle's contracts. Yes, they will kick that can down the road. They'll redo contracts. They'll give more money up front. They want to keep that cap hit low and those guarantees low. So inevitably, if they have to, they can get out of those contracts. That's what they want, and that's what I think Brandon Aiyuk is trying to avoid. He wants to get locked into a deal. Not necessarily unmovable, but as close as you can get to essentially tell San Francisco, hey, I'm 26 years old. By the time I'm 30, That's when I want out. I don't want to be out of here when I'm 28 if I had 2 bad years in a row. If I get injured, I want to make sure that I am locked and loaded for the next 4 years. And that brings us to the next report, which this one is a little more speculative, if you will. Ari Maroff of My Sports Update via Twitter, now with the 33rd team. Ari's more of an aggregator, but he does have a little bit of insight, works with some of the top guys in the NFL, agencies or agents and players and whatnot. He said that the rumored offer for Brandon Aiyuk that was handed to him or offered to him from the Niners brass was a 4-year deal, close to $30 million. Now, my response was, yeah, no duh. He turned down 32 from the Patriots, but I think the issue is that, and I think it was Josina Anderson said this, that the California taxes are playing a role in Aiyuk's asking price. I'm not too sure it's just that, or, I wouldn't be shocked. I live in Southern California. If you're in the Bay Area, you know what it's like here. You want to have that guaranteed money because taxes are crazy, right? But I think it comes down to Aiyuk likely wants that 4th year guaranteed. San Francisco wants that 4th year as a, not an opt-out, but a potential out for them, a low cap hit, that way, like Deebo Samuel's deal currently, they can trade Deebo or cut Deebo next year and save, $10+ million. They want that same flexibility with Brandon Aiyuk, and he does not want to give them that. He wants to guarantee he's here, and I understand that. You're 26, you're going to be in the prime of your career. The last thing you want is, whether it's an injury or one down year, to give San Francisco the out to cut you. You want to be here, locked in with Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, this core. You want to be part of that next core. The one thing you can't do is cave and give San Francisco the out. Meanwhile, San Francisco is like, look, you are just like Deebo and Fred and George and every other contract we've done, minus Nick Bosa, that why would we treat you any different regarding the potential opt-outs or lowering your cap hit in the final year of your deal? While Aiyuk is like, wait a minute here. I'm 26. I'm your best pure receiver. Me and Brock are somewhat tied at the hip. They have the best chemistry on the team. I'm 26 years old. Why would you not want to treat me differently? I'm never injured. Again, in the prime of my career, it's not often you sign a receiver in the prime of their career. Usually, teams draft a receiver, they leave in free agency for a massive deal. Aiyuk says, look, I'm giving you the chance to get this thing figured out. But of course, he's played fickle. Of course, there has been some hardball. But I think things are coming to a head. And I used this term in an article I wrote for Total Apex Sports. It was San Francisco is winning the staring contest with Brandon Aiyuk. And if you read the article, thank you. But 2, it's mainly, well, it's not about winning, and I think that's where a lot of people get turned off by that term. It's not about winning the deal. It's not necessarily, but Aiyuk wants to win. The Niners want to win this deal. And if they can come together, they'll hopefully both win the deal. But right now, San Francisco and Brandon Aiyuk are locked into a staring contest. It's okay, again, who's going to blink first? That's been going on for months now. There's been some incremental increases in offers from San Francisco's brass and front office, but nothing that has truly given Aiyuk the push over the edge to put pen to paper. Now that we're here, and now that we know what a team like the Patriots offered, 32, maybe plus or around $32 million, they were going to fully guarantee that first year of Aiyuk's contract. They were going hard to acquire Brandon Aiyuk, giving him more than the Niners were offering him by far, and giving him even more than what the Pittsburgh Steelers offered him, which we now know was almost the exact same offer San Francisco offered him. According to Sports Illustrated, Albert Breer, he said the Steelers' price point for Brandon Aiyuk was less than $28 million, which again put Pittsburgh right back into San Francisco's neighborhood, pushing Aiyuk back to the table with San Francisco. If the Pittsburgh Steelers, now I have no idea what Pennsylvania taxes are like, so if someone knows, glue me in. But if Aiyuk was getting $28 million, less than $28 million from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and according to reports, he had agreed to go there. They were going to put pen to paper. All San Francisco had to do was sign off on the trade, and Aiyuk was going to be a Steeler. He's willing to play for less than $28 million, and that's without knowing the guaranteed contract or the money of the contract. But if Aiyuk is willing to play for less than $28 million in Pennsylvania, which I'm sure is cheaper than California by far, as Rob says in the YouTube chat, much cheaper in PA. I'm sure it is. But again, if you want to spend your time with the Pittsburgh Steelers making less than $28 million a year, I get you were irked at San Francisco only offering around 26. If they've upped their offer to $28 million, or even $29 million, all ownership has to do from San Francisco is sign off on it. If you're frustrated about this, your anger shouldn't be towards Brandon Aiyuk. It shouldn't be towards Shanahan or John Lynch. It should be towards Jed York and Parag Marate. Now, we have no idea what exactly the deal is going to look like when it's all said and done. Maybe Aiyuk gets $30+ million. Maybe he wants, 2 years completely, fully guaranteed, and it changes things. But if I were to ask you this, if I were to ask the San Francisco 49ers, is it truly worth the risk taking the field without Brandon Aiyuk this year, and maybe even ever again? If you want to take $2 million and multiply it by 4 years, $8 million, $18 million. Is that the biggest issue you have, knowing it's only coming out of one person's pocketbook? Jed York is the final say-so on this. If Jed York comes down from the elevator out of his office into John Lynch's office and says, look, yes, thumbs up, sign Aiyuk now, the deal's done. That is as simple as it is. That is as simple as it is. And even then, I truly still believe, despite Aiyuk having that trade leverage, despite him utilizing it extremely well, I do think San Francisco is somewhat, if you want to use the word winning the staring contest. I think they let Aiyuk go out and talk to Cleveland, who he said no to monitor what the Patriots would offer, and monitor what the Commanders and the Browns and now Pittsburgh would offer. And when you turn down $32 million, that makes San Francisco go, I thought you wanted money. What's going on? Then you learn that the Steelers offered you less than $28 million per year, which was around the offer San Francisco had on the table. And you said yes. This makes me feel like we are minute details. We are so far in the weeds. It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You can't even find yourself out because the weeds are too tall. You are lost in the tall grass. There's no way out. You are locked in a corn maze. You're turning left and right, trying to find the end of the tunnel, end of the maze to say, yes, deal's done and it's over with. But every single time Kyle Shanahan talks, it's no update, simply because Shanahan is not waiting on Brandon Aiyuk. They're not waiting on, Aiyuk's agent, Ryan Williams. They're not waiting on John Lynch. They're waiting on Jed York to say, okay, can we do this? And Jed York likely has a hard cap, a hard money value he doesn't want to go over, and that's what's halting this thing up. But we are right there. You're 16 days away from roster cutdowns. 16 days away, less than 2 weeks away. You have to get this thing done. And every time, whether it's Tom Pelissero, Mike Garafolo, Adam Schefter, every single time they talk, it could happen in 1 minute. It can happen in a month and a half. It can happen in a year. We have no idea when this thing's going to get done. But I have this faith, and I'm not sure where it comes from, this innate faith in me, I guess, that they're going to get this thing worked out, that the longer they wait, Pittsburgh is not going to hang around forever. Unless they go into the year and Justin Fields is playing really well or Russell Wilson's playing well and they feel like, hey, San Francisco and Aiyuk haven't ironed their contract out yet. He's holding out. Let's make the call. But that's a future that if you watch the preseason, it isn't likely to happen for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It just kind of pushes me towards San Francisco and Aiyuk figuring this thing out. Because every report is like, Aiyuk's back on the table. They're meeting again. They're meeting and meeting and meeting. It's like, how many meetings can you have? And it does make me laugh somewhat, because when I saw the report by Jordan Schultz that Aiyuk and San Francisco had another meeting, which to my understanding is at least the second one they've had, I laughed. Because to our knowledge, which is important in this next comment, to our knowledge, we have no idea how many meetings that Deebo Samuel and his agent had, Tory Dandy, with San Francisco. We have no idea how many meetings Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and others have had with San Francisco's brass. We know Nick Bosa didn't show up the entire time last offseason, so I'm sure it wasn't many face-to-face meetings. No way is Nick Bosa flying back and forth from Florida to San Francisco. I doubt George Kittle's flying back and forth from Nashville to San Francisco for random face-to-face meetings. Now, I have no idea where Deebo Samuel is, but I have a hard time believing that they were flying back and forth for face-to-face meetings. We now know Aiyuk has had at least 2, if not 3, face-to-face meetings with San Francisco's brass, with assumed to be John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and maybe go further and say Jed York or Parag Marate, the financial guys up there in the front office. But how comical is that? They have treated Brandon Aiyuk, maybe not by contracts on the table, not by offers put out there, but the fact that they've played this game for so long, most front offices wouldn't do this. Most organizations would say, wipe our hands, it's over with. It's basically the Niners and the Dallas Cowboys who know they need Dak and know they need to re-sign CeeDee Lamb. But man, the way San Francisco's front office has treated Aiyuk and not given in to his request, but played the game as long as they have, you have to give kudos to the patience the front office has. Because I don't know anybody else, again, maybe outside the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, who is kind of insane at this point and has too many illegitimate kids to count by now. But the way the Niners have played this, it's been frustrating for sure. But they have treated Aiyuk with grace, and the fact they had to sit down to clear the air multiple times just shows they want to be together. Just shows that they are madly in love. It's almost like a romantic comedy where it's like the woman and the man are just so like, I'll never fall in love with them. Ew, they're gross. But deep down inside, they know they're the perfect match for each other. That's what this is like. It's kind of like Knocked Up, where you're like, I'm ashamed that we're going through this. This is a weird pregnancy. It's a weird contract negotiation. I hate that we're doing this, and I'm doing it with you. But deep down, you fall in love with that person. You want to be together. You know, hey, we're a match made in heaven. Let's make this thing work. It feels like we are in the final act of a rom-com, where the couple finally realizes, or finally comes to the realization of, wow, you were right in front of my eyes the whole time. I can't believe I couldn't see it, Aiyuk. John, Kyle, I can't believe I couldn't tell. I was madly in love with you the whole time. And it's like, why did it take months to get here? Now, I don't know about you. I've watched plenty of rom-coms in my life, whether it is alone or with my now wife. Sometimes rom-coms are terrible, and you get to the end and you're like, that's it? I waited an hour and a half for that? That's kind of what this is like, where yes, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, but ultimately, you're waiting for the exact same thing you knew was going to happen. This is like a Hallmark movie. Oh, it's a girl from a small town and a guy from the big city, and he's going to come over and take over the business, and it's going to ruin the small neighborhoods and lives they have here because the farm is being taken over by Big Pharma or whatever. And then at the end, they're like, I hate the big city. I want to move to this small town, and we're going to live happily forever with babies, and I'm going to take over your business and bring it to new heights. And it's like, could have called that one. Could have seen that coming from a mile away. That's kind of what this is like. No duh. No duh Aiyuk wants a 4-year, $30 million contract. Yeah. That's what he wanted the whole time. No duh. Pittsburgh wasn't going to offer him $28 million plus. No one was, outside of the New England Patriots. Like, no one has truly offered Aiyuk exactly what he wanted outside of the Patriots. And he was like, I'm not going there. And it leaves Pittsburgh and San Francisco like, okay, what's going on? And Pittsburgh's not going to hang on forever. And I wouldn't be shocked if this thing continues to linger and linger and linger if Pittsburgh says, you know what, man? We're good. We're going to suck anyways. We're good. You got Pickens and Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson now, I think. If it isn't Jefferson, it's Allen Robinson, whoever else is out there. They're all terrible. Roman Wilson's out there now. Pat Freiermuth. Going to ride with our guys. And that's kind of like, okay. But it's like, we're in the third act. Finish it off. Please. It's annoying. You're tired of it. I'm tired of it. Yet somehow we still talk about it. I want to get to some comments here in the YouTube chat. Tony Foster says like this: you were right in front of my eyes. You're doing a good job, man. I appreciate it, Tony. We do have a Trey Lance comment. Not very often we see Trey Lance comments now on the YouTube chat, being with the Dallas Cowboys the last 2 years. Still rooting for Trey. Wasn't his best training camp or preseason, but played much better in week 2 compared to week number 1. Bobo says here that his friend, or their friend, I don't know what gender you are, Bobo, but you have a dog profile picture. So the dog Bobo says, my friend who's a Raider fan said they're looking to get Trey Lance. O'Connell and Minshew aren't working out for them. I know they just named Minshew as their starting quarterback. I would have also done the exact same thing. And Jerry Jones also said that Trey Lance made the team, and like, yeah, of course he did. You're not going to cut Trey Lance knowing you may not pay Dak Prescott his money, and knowing Cooper Rush is like your backup quarterback, but really like isn't great. So I don't know what Trey Lance's trade value would even be at this point. San Francisco traded him for a 4th round pick. It's probably more towards a 6th or 7th round pick. I am shocked that, and I get there's money tied to it, and I get that Sam Darnold is now with Minnesota and they want to ride that way. But when McCarthy went down, I was kind of shocked people weren't tying Lance to Minnesota, because Lance is from North Dakota. It's in the area. Minnesota fans are pretty fond of Trey Lance. It just kind of felt like, okay, that makes sense. Like, that really feels like a good spot for him. Him and Sam Darnold duking it out again in a quarterback room. And I think it's like, is Nick Mullins still in Minnesota? I know Matt Corral's now there, and they have, again, Sam Darnold starting for them. But the minute McCarthy went down, I was like, go get Trey Lance. Like, he may not be good. I mean, not been good so far through what now is year number 4. You're not going to have to pay him big money. And if Darnold sucks, put in Trey Lance and see what he can do. And if he's good, then you sign him to a new deal, or you figure things out later. Like, man. But I have no idea what Trey Lance, his value's not going to be high. And if Bobo, who says they're a man, so good to know. Okay. Bobo is a man named Bo, and his dog is Bobo. What a great name. When I think of Bobo, and this is no disrespect to you at all, Bobo, I'm a child of the 90s, but my brothers are born in the 80s. When I think of the name Bobo, I think of a Bobo from the Double Dragon movie with Robert Patrick, where his name is like Yokoshuko, whatever it is, and it's terrible. And it's like Los Angeles, 2012, and you're like, oh my god, like futuristic apocalypse, a Double Dragon with like Alyssa Milano's in it, and like the Bobo character is like, just like, I don't know, he drives a big semi-truck, he's like a gangster, but like they pump him full of like fluid and he turns into a big like bloated monster. This is so off topic, but again, going back to Bobo, who says the rumored offer is a 4th round pick from the Raiders going to the Dallas Cowboys for Trey Lance. I don't even think Lance is worth a 4th round pick. Would you trade a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance? I wouldn't. No way. I wouldn't even trade Josh Dobbs for Trey Lance. And I like Trey. I want him to play well. I'd rather have Joshua Dobbs at this point in their career. But moving on to a more important topic than Bobo, his gender, Double Dragon, and Trey Lance. Let's move on to Trent Williams, if you will. Let's stop balking and trying to save and burn some time. Let's talk about Trent Williams because we got small news, and it was kind of a off the cuff, really random. There hadn't been any news coming from Trent Williams or his camp or even the Niners regarding an update of him. It was okay, like Trent's holding out and we hope to figure it out soon. That's been where the negotiations have reportedly kind of been sitting for a long time, and he's not been there the entire offseason program. Apparently he's been working out in Houston at his facility, which is great to hear. Definitely staying in shape. But on Fox Sports 1, I think it was Speak for Yourself, or what is called Speak now, with LaShawn McCoy and DeSean Jackson, of all people, who is a former Trent Williams teammate with the Washington then Redskins, now Commanders. Again, off the cuff, just said he had talked with Trent Williams on the phone or via text and said that the Niners and Trent Williams were working on a deal to bring him back prior to week number 1. And the exact quote was, "They are working on something. I think they are going to make it right for my boy," in this case his boy is Trent Williams, "to come in there. He might it might be a little late showing up, but they're going to take care of him. He's going to be fine. Niner fans, it's going to be all right. He'll be there shortly." And that was kind of the first words we've heard about Trent Williams all offseason. It's been about Brandon Aiyuk and Brandon Aiyuk and Brandon Aiyuk, and it's never been about Trent. It's been 0 dark 30. LeBron playoff time when he wants to make a big deal about himself on his Instagram, where he puts the black profile picture and goes dark 30. Right? That was it. He's just gone. And we've seen Jalen Moore take snap after snap after snap with no signs of Trent Williams returning. Finally, we have something, though. We have something to cling to and say, there's a hope. Maybe Trent will come back before the Jets game in, 3 weeks' time now. I think it's 19 days before week 1 of the NFL season. Trent's got to come back. I am tired of watching Jalen Moore take snaps, especially after watching him take 30 pass blocking snaps against the Saints starters and give up 3 pressures, almost getting Brock Purdy killed twice. And even today on KNBR, Kyle Shanahan said, Brock was out there with Dominic Pooney, who could be a starter for us this year, and then, both are potential starting tackles. And I was like, wait a minute, no, don't do that. Don't call Jalen Moore, of all people, a potential starting tackle. I swear, if Jalen Moore is lined up week number 1, blocking Brock Purdy's backside, I will do whatever it takes to bring Trent Williams back in San Francisco. It is to a point of desperation. You gotta figure this thing out now. More than Aiyuk, San Francisco needs Trent Williams to succeed more than Brandon Aiyuk by a country mile. You need a starting left tackle over a receiver any day. You need a Hall of Fame left tackle over number 1, number 2 receiver, whatever you want to call him, any day of the week. But again, you finally have some news. DeSean Jackson, of all people, saying that it's going to be okay. He'll be there week number 1, referring to Trent Williams. And so I got into thinking, what does a contract for Trent Williams look like? What does a contract for a Hall of Fame or future Hall of Fame left tackle look like? And I dove into the numbers. I crunched the numbers, right? Because I'm so smart here, obviously. A mathematician, if you will. And I dove into the guarantees. Again, the annual value is not the issue. It's the guarantees. Trent Williams still has the largest total contract by a left tackle in football. bigger than Christian Darrisaw's and Andrew Thomas's contract, still has the biggest contract. It's not about annual value or total money. It's about guarantees. Guarantees. And right now, Trent Williams ranks 5th in total guarantees and 5th in fully guarantees. If you were Trent Williams and you knew you were 36 years old, at the end of your current deal, you'll be 38 years old. Maybe you want to play longer, maybe you don't. We're not really sure exactly what he wants to do, but you don't want to be the 5th highest fully guaranteed left tackle. You want to be number 1. You want to be Schmitty Warger Jagerman Jensen from SpongeBob. He was number 1. That's what you want to be if you're Trent Williams. And 5th in total guarantees and 5th in fully guarantees will not cut it. I'm not sure if he'll actually be number 1 because Christian Darrisaw, the Vikings left tackle, has a $77.5 million in total guarantees. I think Trent will be right around that. I would not be shocked if Trent is like $73 million, $75 million in fully guarantees, getting him into that 1 or 2 spot, essentially saying, hey, Trent, we love you. We want to do good by you, but you're not 26, you're 36. We would understand paying a left tackle like Christian Darrisaw, the highest contract in regards to guarantees for a left tackle, or Andrew Thomas, who's young, massive money in guarantees too. We're not going to guarantee you the most, but we'll certainly guarantee you a top 2. Like that is a fair contract, a fair deal. But what does it make you feel like that? And again, this sort of things get tricky because guaranteed money is essentially the owner paying money. It's not really the salary cap. Yes, some of it goes against it, but a lot of that money is out of the owner's pocketbook. It's not, okay, you have to separate all these, 53 plus players and hope it sits under the cap. You're allocating that money over an entire roster. In this case, it's more of like, okay, we'll allocate a little more towards Trent, but we'll take a lot of the money we're already allocating, put it into a higher guarantee, and lower his cap hit in the process. Meaning Jed York and company at the top have to pay more out of pocket to keep Trent and, in this case, Brandon Aiyuk together. That, I think, is what's frustrating for Jed York. Jed York is already paying McCaffrey higher guarantees. He's already redone Kittle's deal a handful of times, Travis Ward's deal once. Going to have to give Brock Purdy a massive contract and massive guarantees. Like, Brock Purdy could walk away with the highest quarterback contract of all time. That's a lot of guaranteed money. You're looking at 100 plus guarantees, $100 plus $1 million in guarantees. It's not like 150, higher than that too, maybe. Like, the Niners, salary cap wise, can pay everybody. They're good. It's about, does Jed York want to shovel over and dive into his, Scrooge McDuck pile money in the coins and pick some out for the players in the roster who deserve to get paid? That's the issue. Look, I don't know Jed York personally. I'm a pretty cheap person. I'm a pretty, close to the chest with my money as you can get. I don't love the stock market. I don't love investing too much. Not the biggest tipper. Keep in mind, I am recently married, which that's a big reason because of it. But ultimately, I'm not, I'm not dishing out money left and right. Jed York is, but he's a millionaire. He's almost a billionaire. He has the money to do that. And it's not like I'm giving money or he's giving money to a random person for a tip. He's signing over a check to a person that will ultimately give him and get him more money. Like, he's investing in these players who, when people buy their jerseys and buy tickets to the arena and buy an $18 beer at Levi's, that goes into Jed's pocket. Jed York watched, and I hope he's learned his lesson. He watched in 2015 and 2016 when there was nobody there. It was Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula and a bunch of has-beens and wannabes and hope-sos trying to, masquerade as NFL coaches and NFL players. And there was nobody in the stands. Nobody in the stands. I hope he realizes that stretches like this, successful ones, don't usually last. But hiring Kyle Shanahan, hiring John Lynch, having Brock Purdy, Aiyuk, and Debo, and Kittle, and Warner, and Trent Williams, well, usually you want to maintain that, and you have to invest to do so. You have to show them that you care. It's like having a girlfriend. My new wife, which thank you, Rick Diaz, in the comments. Thank you, Papa J. Thank you so much. It's almost about 3 months in. It's been pretty good so far. But when you have a girlfriend or boyfriend, you want to invest in them. You want to show them that you care. You're trying, right? Because inevitably, you want to pop the question. You want to get that ring on your finger, right? You got to invest in these players. You got to invest your time, which he's done so, effort, which he's done so, but more importantly, like every good girlfriend or wife wants you really to do, you got to invest your money. Invest in that ring. You got to buy 2 of them if you want to get married, the engagement and the wedding ring. You got to pay for the wedding itself. You got to buy them snacks whenever they want it. My wife loves hot Cheetos. If she doesn't have a bag of hot Cheetos, she is punching and clawing and like crying to be like, you better buy me a bag of hot Cheetos right now. If she doesn't have her nightly treat, like, you got to invest money in your wife and your husband, mainly wives, but still your husband too. Just like Jed York needs to invest in Trent Williams. Who cares if these guys won a couple extra $1 million? Who cares if Aiyuk wants the 4th year guaranteed? Like, Jed has come a long way from the Harbaugh era, right, where he made a lot of mistakes. Essentially cost us the first Shanahan-like era in a long time. With Mariucci was pretty good for a little bit early in his tenure, then things fell apart, and it was Dennis Erickson and Mike Nolan and a whole lot of just terrible garbage, and Harbaugh comes along, and he creates this monster of a team, and they didn't win anything, but still, it's like there was a chance for longevity, and York blew that. His ego got in the way, he got fickle and angry, and it got in the way, right? But since then, he used that to learn. He's mended fences. He's poured into the roster. More so than ever. Willing to pay Jimmy G and Debo Samuel and Fred Warner and D Ford and Dre Greenlaw and Jimmy Ward, Travarius Mooney Ward, a lot of Wards going on here. Trent Williams, like, he's poured into the roster, trading for Christian McCaffrey, going and getting Trey Lance. But like, he's poured into the roster. Out of all the people, besides McCaffrey and Bosa and Brock Purdy, why would you draw the line at Trent Williams or Brandon Aiyuk? If they ask you to pay, Ray McLeod or Dante Pettis a max contract, of course you're going to say no. Who wouldn't? But they're asking you to pay a future Hall of Fame left tackle and an all-pro receiver in his prime. Yes, there's drawbacks to doing so, losing money. It's not like San Francisco isn't one of the most valuable sports franchises in the entire world. The entire world. The Niners are, I don't know what the Forbes list says now, but the Niners are, they were top 5 as of 2020. You can't tell me they aren't somewhere still in that range. Like, the Dallas Cowboys are clearly number 1. Clearly number 1. But the Niners have to be up there somewhere. Why can't Jed York shovel over a handful more money? I feel like it's not that hard to do. San Francisco has gone down a little bit, but they're still top 10. This is as of August 2023. The San Francisco 49ers are the number 9 valued franchise with revenue annually $622 million. What are we fighting over, Jed? What are you being fickle over? No one's asking you to pay C.J. Beathard or Joe Williams or Glenn Coffey or Thomas Clayton or Capri Bibbs. They're asking you to pay all-pro talent. And it seems like, according to DeSean Jackson of all people, that something's going to happen soon. Even Kyle Shanahan said today, and I'll leave you all with this, that Kyle Shanahan said today that they have been communicating with Trent Williams and that things are going into a positive direction. There's movement there. Movement there. So for Trent, we're on a fast path to an extension, to a restructured contract, if you will. For Aiyuk, still wait and see, but they're so far entrenched in this, man. Rick, of course we're still friends, man. Of course we're still friends. You ain't got to worry, Rick. Just like Niners and Aiyuk are still friends. They've always been friends. They've been lifelong partners. They just can't see. Can't see. Things are coming to a head. They have to. 16 days before cut down day. 16. They have just over 2 weeks to figure this thing out. Guys are going on IR left and right. Receivers are battling. And this is the big thing here with the Aiyuk situation. They don't have anybody to be the receiver number 2. Yeah, you have Juwan. We all love Juwan. Third receiver. Big-bodied slot guy. That's his role. Pearsall hasn't even suited up, and he's not practicing this week. Like, they don't have anybody today. And look, Kyle Shanahan, good guy, love him to death. He said that they may walk into week number 1 with Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and Chris Conley as the guy opposite Deebo and Juwan. I love Conley as a special team veteran player that can spot start here or there. And I get if Pearsall was healthy, he'd probably be the guy. Cowling was great against the Saints last week, but who knows? But do the Niners really want to walk into a Super Bowl or bust year with Chris Conley, who I like, mind you, but Chris Conley, of all people, lined up opposite Deebo and Juwan? No one wants that. Chris Conley doesn't want that. They've got to figure this thing out, and I think they will. I think knowing they've had 3 sit-down meetings, you are so entrenched that you cannot leave at that point. You are down deep, brother. The Niners are caught. Feet are stuck in the mud. They're trying to claw their way back out of this thing. But man, they're so entrenched in trying to keep Aiyuk, they've gone too far. Had they cut bait a month ago, 2 months ago, that stinks. We're all overreacting. Oh, the season's over, man. It's over. Shout out Bill Paxton aliens. But you're too far. You have to see this thing through. And you have 16 days. Then you have, after the 16 days, which is cut down day, you have 3 weeks? So you have 19 days to truly get Aiyuk back on the field. And if I'm correct, that while their game is on Monday, I think he has to be signed by that Friday. Because I think Bosa signed or had to sign that Thursday for him to be active. So they caved and they went that far with it. I think Aiyuk has to be signed by that Thursday or Friday, or he can't even play come week 1. So they got around then 16 days to figure this sucker out. If they don't, what a botch job. What a botch job. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday evening. Thank you all for watching and listening. Rob Smith, Papa J, Rick Diaz, Bobo was in here, and his dog Bobo out there as well. Jim Everett the Great saying the Niners are sinking like a Titanic. Still afloat, Jim. somehow still floating. Tony Foster, thank you so much. If you kindly could follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can follow us on both those social media websites. We're trying to get closer and closer and closer to getting a total of 30,000 followers on both those websites combined. We have about 23 on Instagram and roughly about 4 on the Twitter. Want to get combined to 30. Papa J says here, love the show. Much love, Sterling. Right back at you, Papa J. Tony Foster says, yay, good show. Thank you so much. But yeah, follow us on social media. And I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Sports Spider. I hate having to go to all these different websites, ESPN, Fox, Sporting News, whoever else you go to get your Niner coverage, NBC Sports. Go to one place that has everything in one categorized and organized place. That's sportsfighter.com. They got podcasts, videos, articles, everywhere you search, put in the one spot. It's like having a Roku. You got Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, all different apps, all in the same spot. That's what SportsSpider is for sports coverage. If you want to stay up to date on your and my San Francisco 49ers, hit the link down below and go to sportsspider.com. If you want to watch San Francisco take the field this season, go to SeatGeek.com and find your tickets, get the best price, and put in our promo code 49ERSAccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. My name is Sterling Bennett. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Preseason finale on Friday. Cannot wait. Stock up and stock downs are going to come out this weekend, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Then the 2024 53-man roster prediction comes out next week. You do not want to miss that. But as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. My name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.